Well, if you are a Caitlyn Clark fan, if you're an Indiana Fever fan, this is something you already know. However, for the haters out there, the old WNBA fandom, many of you call them the slows. For those fans, they're in complete denial. We've tried to tell people Caitlyn Clark moves the needle.
The next team I play for, I want a bigger contract so then I can buy a house and be homey and cozy. The words hung in the air, a bombshell dropped by Sophie Cunningham herself, instantly sending shockwaves through the Indiana Fever organization. This wasn't just speculation, this was a direct statement from one of the team's most vital players, signaling a potential exit that could dismantle the carefully constructed roster around Caitlyn Clark. The implications are staggering, not just for the Fever's immediate future, but for the entire trajectory of a team that has finally captured the league's attention. This unexpected declaration throws a wrench into championship hopes, leaving fans and teammates stunned and potentially leaving Clark carrying an even heavier burden. The silence that followed her podcast revelation was deafening.
But in a podcast clip today, it sounds like the Indiana Fever are not going to keep Sophie Cunningham. It does sound like the Fever are not going to keep her. From her podcast, a lot of the time she'd been mentioning the Fever, and in the most recent podcast, she did not mention the Fever, and she said this.
And I think the next team I play for, I want a bigger contract, so then I can buy a house and be homey and cozy.
This wasn't some offhand comment, it was a clear indicator that Sophie Cunningham is likely gone from the Indiana Fever. The speaker on her recent podcast noted a distinct shift. While previously Sophie consistently mentioned the Fever, her latest remarks focused entirely on the next team. This linguistic pivot suggests a pre-existing conversation with the organization, or at least a firm personal decision, signaling that her demands for a larger contract will not be met in Indiana. Such a departure would strip the Fever of a critical role player, someone integral to their on-court chemistry and success, particularly alongside a generational talent like Caitlyn Clark. This wasn't merely a hint, it was a devastating revelation for the team.
Well, Forbes has released a rather very interesting insight report that tells you exactly how much the Indiana Fever's social media engagements are actually monetarily worth. Either on X or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, whatever. I mean, all these posts have a monetary value to them based on engagement. Boy, their posts are worth a lot of money. They are worth a lot of money, and I can tell you right now, that's a little over 5 times higher than the next.
Sophie Cunningham is far more than just a player. She's recognized as one of the WNBA's biggest names and, crucially, one of its best glue guys or role players. Her on-court statistics speak volumes, a remarkable 63% true shooting percentage, coupled with a well-able average defensive presence, making her one of the Fever's top defenders. She brings an invaluable combination of high-efficiency offense and solid defense that elevates the entire squad. Her ability to play within a system and contribute without demanding the spotlight makes her indispensable, especially when building around a primary scorer like Caitlyn Clark. This level of selfless performance is rare and deeply valued.
Here, in her 20s, that they don't want to keep. This is the dumbest thing I think I've seen a team do. Like, genuinely. They traded 4 years of Sinai Rivers, and by the way, the Fever wouldn't have drafted Sinai Rivers. The Fever would not have drafted Sinai Rivers. The Fever are dumbasses. They would have drafted somebody else. But losing Sophie Cunningham for money reasons is not a smart thing to do. Like,
The potential loss of Cunningham for what appear to be purely financial reasons has been slammed as the dumbest thing an organization could do. The Fever traded away the 8th overall pick in the draft to secure her services, effectively renting a top-tier role player who just came off the best season of her career in her 20s, only to let her walk. This move fundamentally undermines any strategic planning, turning a valuable asset into a temporary fixture without long-term commitment. Sacrificing a high draft pick for a player you then refuse to retain makes zero sense from a roster construction standpoint, especially when aiming for sustained contention.
Boy, their posts are worth a lot of money. They are worth a lot of money, and I can tell you right now, that's a little over 5 times higher than the next WNBA team. 5 times higher. Let's go down here. Just scroll down. The Indiana Fever's staggering $55 million social media evaluation speaks volumes. Now, before we get into this, let me just come over here and let me read this to you so you know exactly what we're looking at.
The decision is exacerbated by the Fever's earlier moves. They famously sacrificed the 8th pick of valuable asset, not directly for Sophie, but to free up salary for wannabe WNBA player Aaliyah Boston's former college teammate. This complex financial maneuvering was intended to strengthen the roster, yet now it seems to backfire dramatically if Cunningham departs. The speaker emphatically states that the Fever could have acquired Sophie without giving up such a high pick, potentially using a lower pick or a less impactful player package. This strategic misstep now looks even more pronounced, leaving the team without the draft capital or the player.
Unpopular opinion, Sophie's better than Lexi. But it's close enough that fair enough Lexi's younger. But I'm like, Lexi's not worth a max either. Like, if you're stuck in a situation where you've got 2 wings that are not max contract players looking for max contracts, you have to pick one or the other, you're kind of screwed. Especially because you could have had a cost-controlled Sanaya Rivers for 4 years. At the same time, what are the odds that Steph White would have not developed Sanaya Rivers whatsoever and gave her bench splinters for the entire year?
The core of the financial conundrum revolves around Sophie Cunningham versus Lexi Hull. While Cunningham is arguably the better player, Hull is younger, presenting a tough choice for a team trying to manage its salary cap. However, the expert analysis suggests neither player commands a max contract. If the Fever are stuck choosing between 2 quality wings, neither of whom is a max player, but both potentially seeking significant deals, they are in a bind. This dilemma highlights a deeper issue within the team's contract management and player valuation, forcing an uncomfortable decision that could weaken the overall roster around Caitlyn Clark.
Quote, the WNBA is on a meteoric rise. David Brickley, CEO of STN Digital. The valuations of these franchises are increasing dramatically. The ratings on television are better than ever, and I think there's no better time to look at what's happening on social media. Using a model called, quote, social value metric, the study calculated the estimated pay media equivalent value created by organic posts, factoring in impressions, video views, engagements to benchmark what the same exposure would cost through advertising.
A concerning rumor suggests the Fever might be prioritizing a max contract for Natasha Howard over retaining Sophie Cunningham. This strategic choice is explicitly called against everything we know about the sport of basketball over the last 2 decades. Modern basketball emphasizes shooting role players and system fit, all areas where Cunningham excels. Sacrificing a high-volume 43% three-point shooter, a low-ego winning player, for a potentially overpaid veteran center like Howard is seen as a detrimental move that ignores fundamental principles of team building in today's game. Such a decision would significantly hinder Caitlyn Clark's offensive flow.
Is not progressing. Like, she is absolutely not progressing at all. And I think that's something that we have to talk about. That, like, she's not, like, KK Timpson, I've watched her the entire year. And you could say, oh, you know, KK could have been, like, she should have been progressing much better if Steph White had played her more. I'm watching her over in Europe. She's not getting better. She's not getting better. Like, she's cooking the bad teams and then looks lost against the good teams. She's not really improved.
Sophie Cunningham's value in the league is undeniable. The expert boldly claims that if acquired at the right price comparable to a Bridget Carlton level salary, Cunningham ranks among the top 45 most valuable players in the entire WNBA. This valuation underscores her impact far beyond simple statistics. It speaks to her fit, her efficiency, and her role-playing ability. The problem arises if the Fever are unwilling to meet this market value, effectively signaling they don't see her as a top-tier asset. This disconnect in valuation could be the fatal flaw leading to her departure, a massive miscalculation for a team in contention.
A lot of people, this is what it would be worth. The findings revealed the Indiana Fever led the league with an estimated $55.04 million in social value, 38.73 million engagements, 1.17 billion impressions during the 2025 season. The top 5 teams by social value were the Indiana Fever, Dallas Wings at 8.61 million. That was second, folks. You went from 50.
Many argue that the Fever's current roster success, particularly around Caitlyn Clark, stems from sheer luck rather than astute management. They were incredibly fortunate to draft Clark and Aaliyah Boston. Boston in particular displayed remarkable humility and a willingness to completely alter her game to complement Clark, a rare quality in a star. Kelsey Mitchell also adapted beautifully to an off-ball cutter role. Even the hardship players signed were somewhat fortuitous, as perception suggests that the Fever aren't necessarily building a coherent, strategic roster, but rather stumbling into talent that happens to fit.
Realistically, if you don't keep Sophie, you're in a real bad situation, because she's absolutely one of the players that this team needs. She's one of the players the team needs. She's one of the players that will help. And I don't give a damn about this enforcer type shit. What I do give a damn about is the fact that she shoots 43% from 3. She shoots 43% from 3.
A chilling forecast looms over the Fever's future recruitment strategy. The fear is palpable. I have a scary feeling the Indiana Fever are going to recruit badly this summer. I have a scary feeling the Indiana Fever are going to do some bullshit with that pick. This stark warning highlights a profound lack of confidence in the organization's ability to make intelligent roster decisions going forward. Losing Sophie Cunningham now, coupled with potentially poor future moves, could sabotage the foundation built around Caitlyn Clark, leaving her with an underperforming supporting cast. The pressure to get it right is immense.
Top 5 teams by social value were the Indiana Fever, Dallas Wings at 8.61 million. That was second, folks. You went from 55 million down to 8.61 million. Where's Angel? Las Vegas Aces, 7.64 million. Lynx, 7.54 million. The Chicago Sky was 5th, 6.35 million. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Worth noting, STN Digital played a supportive role.
Beyond individual player value, the staggering impact of Caitlyn Clark on the Indiana Fever's overall brand and monetary worth cannot be overstated. Forbes released a revealing insight report, quantified by STN Digital and Zoom, which analyzed social media engagements during the 2025 season. This data unequivocally demonstrated that Clark, and by extension the Fever, moved the needle unlike any other player or team in the league. Fans flocked to see her, and that support inherently carries over to the entire franchise, generating unprecedented engagement and financial value across all platforms.
Forcer type shit. What I do give a damn about is the fact that she shoots 43% from 3. She shoots 43% from 3. And shoots it at a high volume, is tough. Plays within a role, plays within a system, and is a winner. like is a winner and has near like, I'm not gonna say zero ego because no professional athlete has zero ego, but she is a
The numbers are truly mind-boggling. The Indiana Fever led the WNBA with an estimated $55.4 million in social value, generating 38.73 million engagements and an astounding 1.17 billion impressions during the 2025 season. To put this in perspective, the second-place team, the Dallas Wings, came in at a distant $8.61 million. That's a more than five-fold difference, a chasm almost unimaginable in professional sports. This colossal gap underscores Clark's singular ability to generate revenue and attention for the Fever, creating an economic engine that dwarfs the rest of the league.
They increased engagements by 505%, impressions by 251%, and a social value by 344%. So good God, I don't know where they ranked prior, but they had that much growth and was still, I mean, basically $37 million behind the Indiana Fever in second place. Wow. And I wonder where that would be. Look, the Indiana Fever did not quit posting
The disparity in social media value extended throughout the league, with Angel Reese's Chicago Sky shockingly landing in 5th place with $6.35 million. Even well-established teams like the Las Vegas Aces, $7.64 million, and the Lynx $7.54 million, were miles behind the Fever. This report solidified what many observed: Caitlyn Clark is the undeniable catalyst for unprecedented growth in the WNBA. Her presence single-handedly created an economic boom, driving engagement and media value to levels previously unseen, leaving even other popular stars trailing significantly.
But this is concerning because are they going to keep Natasha Howard? Are they going to get rid of Sophie Cunningham to keep a max contract for Natasha? The offense stops here, Howard. Like, for me, that's just really, really concerning. And I'm worried. I'm really, really worried. Like, because by the sounds of things, this does absolutely sound like a take from a person who has been either knows or has been told they're gone.
The next team I play for, I want a.
Interestingly, even amidst Clark's colossal shadow, Sophie Cunningham carved out significant individual monetary value. She was, for a certain span of months, the third most searched WNBA player on Google Trends. This individual popularity translated into sponsorships, including a notable deal with Arby's, demonstrating her standalone marketability and fan appeal. This highlights that her value to the Fever wasn't just on the court; she contributed to the team's overall brand presence and media footprint, making her potential departure even more impactful for the franchise's total value.
The Indiana Fever had a YouTube video that was worth an estimated $733,594. That is unbelievable, folks. As somebody that's on YouTube, I don't know how many views that son of a bitch got, but it had to be a lot to be worth over 700 grand. Woo! Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks. One specific instance showcased the Fever's newfound digital power. A single YouTube video from the Indiana Fever was valued at an astonishing $33,594. For context, as a YouTube content creator, the speaker expressed awe at the sheer volume of views required to generate such immense monetary worth from one piece of content. This single video's valuation alone speaks volumes about the incredible audience engagement and advertising potential the Fever now commands, directly attributable to the fervent interest in their team, primarily fueled by Caitlyn Clark.
Which is against everything we know about the sport of basketball. Everything we have learned for 20 years about the sport of basketball will tell you that Sophie Cunningham is one of the most valuable players in the league if you can get her at the right money. And whatever half a max contract, whatever a Bridget Carlton's making. You got to match that. You got to match a Bridget Carlton. Like, in terms of value, there are maybe 45 more valuable players in the WNBA than Sophie Cunningham.
The ultimate concern boils down to Sophie Cunningham's irreplaceable nature, particularly for a team built around Caitlyn Clark. Her combination of elite shooting, defensive effort, and willingness to play any role makes her a perfect complement to a superstar like Clark. Unless the Fever can line up an equally talented, low-ego, high-efficiency player like a Kaylin McBride to fill that void, Cunningham's departure will leave a gaping hole. She isn't seeking max money, making the Fever's potential unwillingness to meet her reasonable demands all the more baffling and frustrating for fans and potentially for Clark herself. The Indiana Fever are facing a critical crossroads, losing Sophie Cunningham, a player universally recognized for her value, her perfect fit within a system, and her championship mentality for financial reasons, seems to fly in the face of modern basketball wisdom. This isn't just about losing a player, it's about potentially undermining the support structure around Caitlyn Clark, squandering draft capital, and making short-sighted financial decisions. The implications for the Fever's ability to truly contend are immense, placing even more pressure on Clark to single-handedly elevate a team that might be making critical strategic errors. Sophie Cunningham's shocking exit hint sends a seismic ripple through the Indiana Fever, directly impacting the aspirations of Caitlyn Clark in the franchise. This isn't just a player leaving, it's a critical piece of the puzzle being removed, exposing potential organizational flaws and financial missteps. With Clark already carrying the burden of an entire league, the prospect of losing a player as valuable and selfless as Cunningham only adds to the immense pressure. The Fever now face an uphill battle to maintain their momentum and capitalize on Clark's unparalleled impact, as this controversy could redefine their path forward, demanding answers and accountability.